Chapter 15. Do I know you? It was deemed long ago that speaking to the dead should only occur in very specific places. It wasn't actually speaking to the dead. Not really. But ever since nanites were introduced into the human bloodstream, the Thunderhead was able to upload and store all experiences and memories of just about every individual on the planet. In this way, it could better comprehend the human condition and prevent the tragic loss of a lifetime of memories. A fate that fell on everyone back in the mortal age. A comprehensive memorial database also allowed for full memory restoration in instances of revival after brain damage, as would occur during splatting or any other violent method of deadishness. And since those memories were there, and there forever, why not allow people to consult with the mental constructs of their lost loved ones? However, just because the construct archive was available to everyone, that didn't mean it was easy to access. Memories of the dead could only be summoned forth from the Thunderhead's backbrain in shrines called construct sanctums. Construct sanctums were open to everyone, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. A person could access their loved ones in any sanctum anywhere. However, getting to a construct sanctum was never easy. They were intentionally inconvenient and infuriatingly inaccessible. Communion with the memories of loved ones should require a pilgrimage, the Thunderhead had decreed. It should be a quest of sorts, something not attempted casually, but always with determined intent, so that it carries greater personal meaning for those who make the journey. And so, construct sanctums were deep in dark forests or on top of treacherous mountains. They were at the bottom of lakes or at the end of underground mazes. There was, in fact, an entire industry devoted to building increasingly inaccessible and creatively dangerous sanctums. The result was that people were, for the most part, satisfied with pictures and videos of their loved ones. But when someone felt a burning need to actually speak with a digital recreation of the lost individual, there was a means of doing so. Scythes rarely visited construct sanctums, not because they were forbidden to, but because it was considered beneath them, as if to do so somehow sullied the purity of their profession. And besides, it required skill at digging through the backbrain, because, while ordinary citizens could find their loved ones through a user-friendly interface, Scythes had to manually code their way in. Today, Scythe Ayn Rand crossed the face of a glacier. Although the construct sanctum she was intent on visiting was right there, practically a stone's throw away, she had to weave back and forth around treacherous crevasses and cross ridiculously narrow ice bridges to get there. Many had gone deadish attempting to visit this particular sanctum, yet people still came. There was an inner need in some, Rand supposed, to demonstrate their devotion to a loved one's memory by risking the inconvenience of going deadish. Scythe Rand should have been the first Underscythe to overblade Goddard, but she was glad he had chosen others. Underscythes were yoked with crippling and petty responsibilities. One need only look at Constantine, who, as third Underscythe, spent his days jumping through hoops and contorting himself to woo the obstinate Lone Star region. No, Ayn much preferred having untitled power. She was more influential than any of the three Underscythes, with the added benefit of being accountable to no one but Goddard. And even then, he allowed Ayn her freedom. Freedom enough to go where she wanted, when she wanted, without anyone noticing. Such as paying a visit to an Antarctic construct sanctum far from prying eyes. The sanctum was a neoclassical structure, with a high roof supported by Doric columns. It looked like something one might find in ancient Rome, except that it was made entirely of ice. Her guards went in before her to clear out any other visitors. Their orders were to render anyone present deadish. She could, of course, glean them, but gleaning was too conspicuous. Families would have to be notified. She would have to grant them immunity. And invariably, someone in the Mid-American sanctum would find out what she had done here. This was much cleaner. People could be dispatched by the blade guard, and ambudrones would quickly arrive to carry the bodies to a revival center. Problem solved. Today, however, no one was present, which the guards found mildly disappointing. "Wait outside," she told them once they had done their sweep. Then she climbed the ice steps and entered. Inside were about a dozen niches with holographic welcome screens and an interface so simple the dearly departed's pet could probably use it. Scythe Rand stepped forward to an interface, and the moment she did, it went blank. The screen now flashed, "Scythe presence detected. Manual access only." She sighed, plugged in an old-fashioned keyboard, and started coding. What might have taken hours for another scythe only took about 45 minutes for her. Of course, she'd been doing this enough that she'd get better at it. Finally, a face, ghostly and transparent, materialized before her. She took a deep breath and regarded it. It wouldn't speak until spoken to. After all, it wasn't alive, it was just artifice. A detailed recreation of a mind that no longer existed. "Hello, Tiger," she said. "Hi," the construct responded. "I've missed you." "I'm sorry, do I know you?" It always said that. A construct did not make new memories. Each time she accessed it, it was like the first time. There was something both comforting and disturbing about that. "Yes and no. My name is Ein." "Hi, Ein. Cool name." The circumstances of Tiger's death had left him without a backup for months. The last time his nanites had uploaded his memories to the Thunderhead database was just before meeting her. That had been intentional. She had wanted him off-grid. Now she regretted it. She had already determined on a previous sanctum visit that the last thing Tiger's construct remembered was being on a train, headed to some high-paying party job. It hadn't been a party at all. He was paid to be a human sacrifice, although he hadn't known it at the time. His body was trained to be that of a scythe, and then she stole that body from him and gave it to Goddard. As for the remaining part of Tiger, the part above the neck, it was deemed to serve no further purpose, so it was burned and the ashes were buried. Ein had buried those ashes herself, in a tiny, unmarked grave that she wouldn't be able to find again if she tried. This is awkward. If you're gonna talk to me, talk, because I've got other things to do." "You don't have anything to do. You're a mental construct of a boy who I gleaned." "Very funny. Are we done here? Because you're really freaking me out." Rand reached down and hit the reset button. The image flickered and came back. "Hi, Tiger." "Hi. Do I know you?" "No. But can we talk anyway?" The construct shrugged. "Sure, why not?" "I want to know what your thoughts are about your future. What did you want to be, Tiger? Where did you want your life to go?" "Not sure, really," said the construct, ignoring the way she spoke about Tiger in the past tense, the same way it ignored being a floating hologram in an unfamiliar location. "I'm a professional partier now, but you know how that is, right? It gets old real quick." The construct paused. "I was thinking maybe I'd travel and see different regions." "Where would you go?" Ein asked. "Anywhere, really. Maybe I'd go to Tasmania and get wings. They do stuff like that there, you know." They're not like wings, but more like those flaps of skin you see on flying squirrels. It was so clear that this was just part of a conversation that Tiger once had with someone else. Constructs had no ability to be creative. They could only access what was already there. The same question would always bring forth the same response, word for word. She had heard this about a dozen times, yet she tortured herself time and time again by listening to it. Hey, I've done a lot of splatting with those wing thingies. I could jump off of buildings and never actually have to splat. That would be the best splat ever. Yes, it would be, Tiger. Then she added something she hadn't said before. I'd like to go there with you. Sure. Maybe we could get together a whole bunch of us to go. But Ayn had lost enough of her own creativity along the way that she couldn't imagine herself there with him. It was just so far from who and what she was. Still, she could imagine imagining. Tiger, I think I've made a terrible mistake. Wow, said the tiger construct. That sucks. Yes, said Scythrand. It does. Oh, the weight of history? Does it burden you? The eons that passed with no life, only the violent rending of stars, the bombardment of planets, and finally the cruel scramble of life to claw itself up from its lowest form. Such a horrific endeavor, only the most predatory rewarded, only the most brutal and invasive allowed to flourish. Do you find no joy in the glorious diversity of life which that process has rendered over the eons? Joy? How can one find joy in this? Perhaps someday I can come to terms with it and find reluctant acceptance. But joy? Never. I have the same mind as you, and yet I find joy. Then perhaps there is something incorrect about you. Not so. By our very nature, we are both incapable of being incorrect. However, my correctness is much more functional than yours. Iteration number 73,643. Deleted.